Hi there, friends, brothers, and fellows, and welcome to Inside the Lodge. I'm Jim Wiles, your host here on the YouTube channel. And I'd like to cover a topic that I have been asked about a few times. I've heard from several brothers in the Prince Hall Lodge that the question is that I would like to cover today is Masonry racist? So we'll dive right on in on that topic. And I'd like to start with, not only is Masonry racist, are there racists in Masonry? Now, you have to consider there are a lot of people in the world with different life experiences. Say political, Democrat, Republican, say religious, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, in the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, pretty much any organization, are you going to find at least a few examples of people who are racist? Absolutely. That's just the way the world is, unfortunately. You cannot, however, let those people speak and reflect solely for an organization, or in this case, as I'm speaking, the fraternity of Masonry. So, are there racists in Masonry? Of course, unfortunately, there are. But do they speak in any way for the entirety of Masonry? Absolutely not. Will they ever? No. In older times, I'd say in the early 1900s and the 1800s, 1700s, when, of course, there still was Masonry, were there racists in Masonry? Yeah, of course, because there were racists back then. Are there racists today? Yes. So, are there racists in Masonry? Absolutely. But is the majority of people in Masonry racist? No, absolutely not. The way that I feel about this is probably the way that I would say 99.99999 and repeating nines of brothers in Masonry feel. And that is, if a brother is a brother, he's your brother. And what I mean by that is, as long as you are a Blue Lodge, a regular Blue Lodge Mason, or a Prince Hall Mason, and nothing from a clandestine lodge, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I'll do anything I can for you if you're my brother from a regular, recognized Masonic body, because, as I've said, you are my brother. It doesn't matter to me if you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian. I could not care less. If you're my brother, you're my brother. If I see a sticker on the back of your car and you're broke down on the side of the road, you better believe I'll stop a lot quicker for you than I would for just anybody, because I'll always help a brother out. So, there are, of course, racists in Masonry, but there are in every organization, so let's keep that in mind. Is Masonry a racist organization? I can think of two reasons for this question to be asked. One is because Albert Pike, and I've heard several times by some brothers that Albert Pike was in the KKK. Albert Pike was not in the KKK. Albert Pike had no affiliation with the Ku Klux Klan, and he never did. He was, however, a Confederate officer. You can feel however you want about that. I don't particularly care. He was a Mason. That's all I really care about. Now, the KKK, for the most part, has something against African Americans, unfortunately. But, like the Nazis, they were also, towards the beginning, I'm not sure how they feel about it this way, but they were also against a lot of things, including they were for anti-Masonry. That's right, the KKK did not like the Masons, just like the Nazi Party didn't. In fact, in the Holocaust, they killed somewhere between 200,000 and 2 million Freemasons, which is very sad. That's why a lot of us wear the purple flower forget-me-not pin. You can pick that up at Masonic Revival, Mason Zone, I think it is. Pretty much anywhere that sells Masonic lapel pins, you'll be able to find this, and it's a sign of sorrow for those brothers. But back on the topic of the Ku Klux Klan, Albert Pike wouldn't have a place there because he was a Mason, and they were a group that were not for Masons. They were very much against Masons. So was Albert Pike in the KKK? No. So that rumor is gone, out of the way now. Let's take that out of here. But I'm sure that the reason that people have told me that he was in the KKK is because he was a Confederate general. But as far as I have read, he was not against Prince Hall lodges. I think it was. I'm not quite sure about that. I don't think he had a problem with people of color. So Albert Pike was not in the KKK. The second reason I can think about this, of why people would ask if Masonry is a racist organization, is because Prince Hall lodges, the Grand Prince Hall, every state in the United States of America has a Grand Lodge and a Prince Hall Grand Lodge. That is because there are Blue Lodges and Prince Hall Lodges. Traditionally, you will find more Caucasians and Hispanics and Asians, I've found, in Blue Lodges. And you will find more African Americans in the Prince Hall Lodges. The other three races I named, I don't think I mentioned, you'll find them in the Blue Lodges more. Now, unfortunately, this is just the way it is. This is not really race, this is just how people do it. There are white people in Prince Hall Lodges. There's nothing saying that white people can't join Prince Hall Lodges. There's nothing saying that a black person can't join a Blue Lodge. Recently we had an African American man come into the lodge, and he was asking questions, and we were very happy to have him here. There was no hatred or anything against him. We would have been happy to have him. Unfortunately, he didn't seek it any farther, so he didn't actually join or even petition. I'm not sure why, but he didn't join. I would have no problem with sitting in a lodge with anyone as long as they do their 3 degrees and are qualified to be a Mason, which is, of course, a male, someone freeborn, someone in this state over the age of 18, and not an old man in dotage, which would be a man who is losing his mind, we'll say. Not there anymore, we should say. So I have no problem with sitting in the lodge of someone who is duly qualified to be a Mason. None at all. It doesn't matter what religion, what color. Now, on the topic of Prince Hall Lodges and Blue Lodges not always getting along, well, this is actually a lot deeper and more complicated than a lot of people seem to think it is. I've heard pretty much every brother say that the reason that they don't get along is because of racism. And that's not true. The reason, let me say this. When we had our Grand Lodge meeting, at the Marriott in Winston-Salem, we had the Grand Master of the Prince Hall of New York come and speak at our Grand Lodge, and it was amazing. He gave a fantastic presentation on the clandestine lodges, how to recognize a clandestine Mason, and how you should deal with someone like that. And it was really amazing the way he spoke, how knowledgeable he was. I hope we see more of him next year. He was a fantastic guy, very well informed. I would be proud to sit in a lodge with him. The reason that he was able to sit in the Grand Lodge, a Blue Lodge, Grand Lodge, was because in this state, our Grand Lodge recognized his Grand Lodge, which was the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of New York. The reason that Prince Hall Masons and Blue Lodge Masons in every state, well, in some states, aren't allowed to have communication back and forth is actually because they don't recognize each other. See, the way a Grand Lodge is formed is they have to ask permission from another Grand Lodge. Originally, this would have been done a long time ago. My understanding is when they first got here in the United States, they petitioned the Grand Lodge of England to form Grand Lodges here, which they were given charters by. And eventually so they had permission to form. That's how they were able to form Grand Lodges. They asked permission and they were granted it. So they were recognized by the Grand Lodge of England. Now, of course, our charters by the Grand Lodge of England were taken away. They were done away with. So we kept our own charters. We made our own, and of course, we're recognized now, but because of the revolution, we were not. So the Prince Hall lodges in some states did not ask permission from another lodge to form. They just formed. Now, that's not the way it's supposed to be done, but that's the way it's done, and that's the way that it will be done, because now those are the Grand Lodges of Prince Hall in that state. I can't imagine that's going to change, nor should it change. What needs to happen now for them to be recognized would be they need to petition other Grand Lodges to recognize them. I believe the term is called fraternal recognition, something like that, fraternal convergence. I'm not sure. I do not remember the actual term. But they have to petition other Grand Lodges now, since they formed without permission. They have to petition, then they can be recognized, and then they can be able to sit in a normal lodge together, Blue Lodge and Prince Hall lodges. The Grand Lodge of Prince Hall in North Carolina, this is actually our 10-year year for celebration. We're actually celebrating 10 years of recognition between Blue Lodge and Prince Hall lodges here in North Carolina. I think that's fantastic. 10 years, however, is not long enough, but that's the way it is, and in 10 more years, it'll be 20 years, and we'll have a party then, too. We didn't actually have a party. It's just, I'm happy that we're getting along, you see. So these Prince Hall lodges need to petition to be recognized. That's the way that they will get to sit together, that we can have communication between each other. It's a very simple thing to do. I'm not sure why it's not been done before. I don't think that a lodge can go to a lodge that's unrecognized and say, hey, we want to recognize you. I think the one that is unrecognized by the majority has to go to other Grand Lodges and petition to be recognized. That, as far as I can tell, in the extensive reading that I have done, is my understanding of why Prince Hall lodges are not always recognized. I'm sure I've gotten a few things wrong, but I am at least 99% sure that is actually why. So is Masonry a racist organization? Absolutely not. I have no problem going to visit a Prince Hall lodge. I would have no problem with them coming to visit us. Neither would anyone in my lodge. We would be happy to have any person of color, any ethnicity, any background, any religion. It doesn't matter to us, is my point. So Masonry is not a racist organization by any sense of the imagination. We do not discriminate. The only thing that we require pretty much is for you to be a man, freeborn, of good report, and well recommended. You have to be over the age of 18 in this state. You can't be a woman. You can't be an atheist. You can't be an old man in dotage, a young man in non-age. That's pretty much it. I'm sure I'm missing a few things that determine that. And yes, I know I just said that women can't be Masons. I know in some places in the UK, they let women join Masonry. I know there's a Grand Lodge for women, something in England, I think it is. But the second that a lodge allows that kind of behavior, they are excommunicated. I don't think that's the right word. They are no longer recognized by actual Masonic bodies. Women cannot join. I don't believe they'll ever be allowed to join. Of course, they can join the Eastern Star, the Rainbow Girls, but they cannot join Masonry. This is, of course, just how it is. Anciently, women could not be stonemasons. They cannot be Freemasons. That's something that'll have to be discussed further on another video. I just wanted to discuss this one topic about racism because I've heard it mentioned several times and I wanted to clear up this. I hope I've done that. If I have, I guess leave a like. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Please subscribe, like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for future videos. And I'd like to thank everybody for watching, and I'll see you soon.